and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode number 14 of Shootin' the Schmidt. April 8th. Sheesh. Time flying. Crazy. Welcome back to another episode of Shootin' the Schmidt. We'll get all the typical podcast stuff out of the way right quick. Those of you watching on the YouTube version, help your boy out. Drop a like down below. Comment on anything we talk about here in today's podcast. Those of you on the listening platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher, make sure to follow. Stay up to date with new episodes every single Thursday. If you're on Apple, drop those 5-star reviews. Love to read them live on the pod. And let's get into today's episode. We're going to be starting off on a little bit of a somber note. The past 2 days have been pretty rough. My family and I had to lose a really good best friend a couple days ago. We had to put our poor dog Bella down, unfortunately. We have had Bella since December, I forget the exact date, like December 19th, I want to say, of 2012. Just a little bit over a month and a half after she was born in that year. We got her part of like my sister's Christmas present. She had been wanting a dog for a long time. And ever since then, we've had her. She's been a great dog. Absolutely loved her. Been a joy to have around. Obviously, with every dog, they're not perfect. There comes their times when they're a little pain in the ass and whatever, but, great dog. Absolutely loved her. And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, month ago, something like that, we found out that she had gotten diabetes, which for dogs is not a great thing. I feel like it's, or at least the way I understand it, which is probably off to some extent. But for dogs, it's not great. It would require a lot of work to take care of. Obviously, there's no flat-out cure. It's just treatable, more or less. But it would have required, constant urine samples and obviously, having to give her insulin constantly and all this stuff. It would have been a lot of work to maintain to keep her at a sustainable level. And over the time, quickly after she was diagnosed, she went downhill pretty quick, started losing some weight, just not being herself, not really any energy. The reason we noticed anything in the first place at all was just seemingly out of nowhere. She was going outside to go to the bathroom a lot, drinking a lot of water. So we took her in to get her checked out, and that's what we found out that she came back with. And just really ever since then, just wasn't herself. No real energy really to do anything. I mean, she really wasn't much of a super active dog. I mean, she did a lot of the typical dog stuff, eat, sleep, poop type of thing. But it's just really you could tell just from being around her as long as she's been around that she was not the same at all. She after a little bit didn't even look different. Like I said, she lost a lot of weight, probably at least 20 pounds or so, maybe a little bit more, and she had been over 100-pound dog. But yeah, just it was really weird. But unfortunately, we took her in to get her put down on Tuesday night, and it's been weird. Like I said, she wasn't like a super active dog or anything. It's not like, it was hours and hours on end spent, playing with her and all that stuff. But when you have someone that's just in your house and part of you and your family every single day for the last 8.5 years, and it's just not there anymore, it just doesn't feel right. Just been walking around the house, and it's just that there's just a weird silence, a weird emptiness. Just it doesn't feel right. I'm just used to walking around the house, or I go grab some food or whatnot. Whenever I leave and come home from work, there's always been Bella just there, ready to say hi or be around you whenever you're grabbing food, and you know how dogs are. But yeah, it's really weird. It was really sad to say goodbye for the last time, and just know that presence that she had just isn't gonna be there anymore. Just really weird. Bella was the first pet that I ever had, and I don't know. It just great dog. Hate to see her go. It's unfortunate that it kind of came up so quick. I mean, like I said, it was just asked us a month ago. She was just fine, normal dog and doing her thing or whatever, and just kind of hit out of nowhere that a few weeks ago that she probably wasn't going to have much time left. Wasn't really sure how much. Could have been a few months or so. Just didn't really know when things were really going to start to go downhill, but came pretty quick. It was over a few weeks span, and yeah, just kind of came out of nowhere, and sucks. Definitely miss her for sure, but with how quickly she was going downhill, and you could just tell her health wasn't in the right place. So she'll be better now that she doesn't have to go through that anymore. But like I said, it'll just be weird just not having a dog around. I mean, it's 8.5 years. It's been a norm, and it's have that norm shaken up is gonna be weird. But we'll get into some better stuff now. I won't keep the somber stuff for too much longer. Let's get into the sports stuff. Let's talk about the NCAA Final Four that took place over the weekend. We had Baylor taking on Houston, and on the other side we had Gonzaga taking on UCLA. The Baylor-Houston game was pretty straightforward, pretty simple blowout for Baylor. Won by, I want to say 19 points or something like that. It was just a pretty easygoing game. Not really much to write home about. But the other side, what a game. Undefeated Gonzaga taking on the 11 seed UCLA. And UCLA came to play. Holy crap. They put up as good of a fight as Gonzaga had faced all season, easily. Game went into overtime. Huge battle. Gonzaga's perfect season on the line. UCLA, the team that played in the first four against Michigan State, ended up making it to the Final Four. They're playing the team that hasn't lost all year, and they are hanging with them. Crazy game. And the ending, as I'm sure most of you, if you cared to pay attention to the college basketball scene, you obviously would have seen the game winner by Suggs. What a beast. That dude's going to be... the dude's been a phenomenal player all year, and definitely got a bright future ahead for him. But hit the game-winning shot, banked it off the backboard from a couple steps inside half court, right at the buzzer in overtime. It looked like it was going to go into another overtime. UCLA looked to be had what looked to be the final possession of the game. Shot went up. Juzang got the rebound, put it back in to tie it up at 90, and then just seeming like a heave was going to come from Gonzaga, but probably not fall, and Suggs just hits that shot. And it was crazy. Definitely one of the better games of college basketball in a while. Definitely one that's going to go down in the books when you're going to see on replays and stuff. And do you remember that game? Something similar to the championship game from Villanova in North Carolina back in 2016. When they had that back and forth, and then Chris Jenkins hitting the buzzer beater. That one's going to be up there with it. So it set it up for, what was a weird tournament, a true March Madness. I mean, so many upsets and all this stuff, and it came down to the championship game and pretty chalked. Two of the two top overall seeds, Gonzaga and Baylor, taking on each other. and it wasn't much of a championship game. Baylor really took it to them, came out hot out the gate, couldn't miss, and Gonzaga just really could never catch up. Baylor ended up winning the game. They are the national champions for men's college basketball. Congrats to the Baylor Bears. And we had another team go into the season or go into the championship game undefeated and take the loss. I talked about last week. I wasn't sure if a team had ever gone completely undefeated before, and I was made aware by my dad that it had happened before. I believe it was, I'm not remembering the teams. I'm going to have to go find it real quick. UNLV and Indiana. Indiana was the other team. UNLV, of course, had that crazy run in the 90s. Ended up losing to Duke in the championship game. So pretty similar outcome there from Gonzaga. Team that looked unbeatable, but they faced some of their better competition in the final two games, which a lot of people had questioned if Baylor was going to be able to keep up when they finally played some true competition, because that's seemingly usually the storyline with Gonzaga. They're a lot of times talked about as being a really good team. They always seem to be up there, at least in the conversation, but the conference they play in typically don't get a lot of competition. So that's pretty much how the story went for Gonzaga. Kind of heartbreaking to win every single game all year. I think they averaged like 90 points a game or something. We're blowing teams out constantly by 20 points and get to the end of the year and not be able to win it all. It sucks. Unfortunate for them, but Baylor is the national champions. Crazy March Madness. Like I said, it was madness, but kind of ended up being shocked in the end. But a lot of great games were had. It's good to have March Madness back this year. It's good to have sports back in general, but definitely missed out on March Madness last year, and it was great to have it back. Phenomenal games, like I said. And, a couple of them, definitely ones for the books that we're going to be seeing in replays and stuff for a long, long time to come. So another great tournament. Let's move on to some other big stuff that went down just about a week ago. I talked about it in last week's pod, but we had some of the games now. Major League Baseball opened up this past weekend, started their season. Been a great start. I've actually watched a decent amount of games. I've actually, being a Tigers fan and stuff, I've been able to actually sit down and watch most of their games this year, maybe of the 6 or so. I think I've only missed a couple or parts of a couple. But they've started out pretty good. 3-3 so far through the first 6 games of the year. Not terrible. They've actually looked pretty good. They've been fun to watch. And one guy that's been a load of fun to watch, if you pay attention to Major League Baseball at all, I'm sure you'll know, Akil Baddoo. What a stud, man. Good to have a shining star with the Tigers, or at least get talked about in some regard because of something one of our players is doing in the good scene of things, and not because of anything negative. But Akil Baddoo is tearing it up. Dude was a Rule 5 pick this year for the Tigers, came from the Minnesota Twins. He's 22 years old, and he has been lighting it up. He played great in spring training, hit well over 300, I believe. I think led our team in home runs with 5 over the spring, which is pretty solid for, figure, a 1-month spring training. Made the team because of the tear he went on, and the way Rule 5 picks work is if they don't make your roster, then I believe they become free agents or hit the waivers or something of that sort. There's something with how the entire thing works, but he made the roster, obviously, because of how he played in spring training, and with that, the Tigers didn't want to take the chance of losing him, and good thing they didn't. Great move. The dude has been absolutely tearing it up. He got his first start just after opening day, and in his first at bat, he batted 9th. First pitch he ever saw, at least in a true major league game, hit it out to left field the other way. Crazy story. His parents were at the game to be able to watch it. It's a great thing. You love to see it. Game after that, he comes in, I believe he pinch hit in that at bat. I could be mistaken. This was one of the games that I missed and turned off or whatever, because Tigers ended up losing by 9, I believe, but ended up hitting a grand slam First career grand slam, got that out of the way. Day after that, comes in the bottom of the 10th inning, gets a pinch hit, or was that one a pinch hit? I'm getting my scenarios mixed up. He hasn't gotten enough playing time. Dude's been coming in as a substitution for some reason, but ended up hitting a walk-off RBI single on the bottom of the 10th. He's hitting walk-offs, and then today's game, or I guess Wednesday's game now is when this pod is going out. Dude hits an RBI triple and hoses a dude from left field at second base. The dude's put on an absolute clinic. He's been so fun to watch. A lot of energy, a lot of flash, a lot of swag. It's been great. Been a great addition to the team. Kid's really young. There weren't a lot of expectations out of him. Prior to being a part of the Tigers, he hadn't played anything higher than A-ball, which, if you don't know how baseball works, it's MLB at the top, then AAA below that, AA, and then there's a high single A and a low single A, and then there's extended spring training teams and all other sorts of other smaller organizations with these teams. But he had never played above A-ball before. And the dude's coming in putting on a show in the major leagues. Like I said, there wasn't a lot expected out of him. Rule 5 picks. Sometimes they pan out, but most of the times they're just teams taking a stab at a player, seeing if they can provide anything that from a team that didn't want him. And Akil Baddoo is tearing it up. The dude forced me to get a Tigers custom shirt for him. I had to do it. Dude's putting on an absolute show. Hopefully that can come in and before the dude probably falls down to earth and maybe we cut him for God knows what reason. So hopefully that comes in soon because I look like an idiot. No, the dude's put on an absolute show. It's been really fun to watch. Another one of the games I caught was the first Sunday night baseball game of the year with the White Sox and the Angels. That was also a fantastic game. Was Shohei Ohtani on the mound, the dual threat, the pitcher, hitter, dude does it all. Man, what a game that was to watch. Ohtani hitting 100 on the gun, locating all his pitches, striking dudes out left and right on the White Sox, and then comes up in his first at bat, hits a ball 451 feet at 115 exit velo. Man just does it all. And he's gotten a lot of talk. He got a lot of talk that night because he was the first player to pitch and bat near the top of the orders since like the early 1900s. It's not a common thing, especially with an American League team. Pitchers really don't bat, but when you're Shohei Ohtani, you do. It seems like they're finally letting him go. When he first got to the Angels, they seemed like they had so many restrictions on him. They would, if he ever pitched, they wouldn't let him also hit, and they wanted to get him rest day after and day before his outings, so he wouldn't even DH. That's what he normally did. If he didn't pitch, he would DH. But then he had limits on days and stuff, and it seems like they're finally letting the restraints go and just letting the dude ball out. Like I said, having a pitcher bat in a home American League game where the standard is to DH, crazy. Definitely risky though too, with double switches and how pinch hitters go, especially if Ohtani wasn't to pitch as well as he did. Kind of fell apart a little bit at the end of the game. Then the Angels ended up getting a walk-off. It was a really good first Sunday night baseball game of the year. Really exciting to watch. It's good to have baseball back. There's just, at least for me, a vibe change when baseball comes back into play. The sun starts shining, weather starts getting warmer. It's a great feeling time of the year. I'll never understand the people who like the latter end of the year when it gets cold and there's nothing fun going on. Nothing's pretty. There's no sunshine. It's all depressing. We got the happy time, the fun part of the year coming. Baseball's here. We love it. I love baseball. So glad to see it back. It's good to see the Tigers are looking like they're at least going to be competitive. It's a long year. We've started hot, I think, each of the last couple seasons or whatever, but hopefully they can keep it going. Be good to have an exciting team to watch in Detroit again. It's been a little while. While we're on the topic of baseball and Tigers and stuff, let's talk about a former Tiger and kind of the downside of baseball right now with Nick Castellanos. Talking about a dude that's been lighting up. Castellanos has been on fire. I think he's at 4 or 5 home runs now at this point, playing for the Reds. Dude's been an absolute beast. I love the kid when he was with Detroit. Unfortunately, him and that relationship with Detroit or whatever it was just didn't vibe really well, and ended up trading him off, unfortunately. But dude's a great hitter. Now hitting in that Reds ballpark. He's doing phenomenal things. And we had a scenario go down, a perfect explanation as to why baseball cannot grow its game. Go down, Reds taking on, I believe it was the Cardinals. We had Castellanos ended up getting hit by a pitch, later came around to a play at the plate in which he scored on, and upon sliding in to where the pitcher was also trying to cover home plate, Castellanos, after sliding in, slewed over the pitcher, screamed in his face or something hype, for scoring the run or whatever. Probably also some anger after getting hit by the pitch. And because of that, Castellanos ended up getting, I believe, a 2-game suspension. And I don't even know if he served it or if it's still an appeal, because after he was supposedly given the suspension, I think I've seen him play ever since. But maybe he served it already. Not exactly sure, but to me, like, I don't get it. I believe the exact reasoning for his suspension was something with taunting and then proceeding to start a bench clearing brawl or whatever, which I don't think there was ever really a brawl. The benches did clear after he did that, but I don't think it really got much beyond just, people pulling their players apart and then going their separate ways. But I don't get the suspension. I don't get it. To me, there was no ill intent involved. I believe Castellanos came out and said that exactly what he yelled at the pitcher was something like, "Let's effing go," or something, which, I mean, I guess is somewhat understandable. Ends up getting hit by the pitch and then comes around to scores. Probably not too happy about it and is also hyped for his team, being able to score some runs. I get it, and I like the excitement and enthusiasm and the swag and the fight and the rivalry. I like all that in baseball. It makes it so much more exciting, and makes some of these, people always talk about regular season baseball games kind of being monotonous because there's 162 of them, and, really nobody cares until it gets down to the end or gets down to playoffs or whatever, because there's just so many games that, like, how many of these small little moments actually matter. So it's good when there's that extra added excitement, rivalry, and just, that extra flair on those plays when they happen in baseball. But and then they get struck down like this because who knows? Somebody get their feelings hurt. I don't really think in the grand scheme of things, even the Cardinals players really had that much of a problem with it. I mean, sure, at the time they're like, "Yo, get off my guy," and whatever. I mean, that's how anybody would react in their situation. They're going to protect their guys, but I can't imagine, like, it overall, like, day later, like, the Cardinals really had a problem with it. I mean, it's competitiveness, it's sports, it's intensity. I mean, this is where these are where these kind of moments are meant to happen. I mean, this is where this stuff is supposed to shine, and it just seems like over the last couple of years, like, baseball's kind of bringing that back a little bit, especially with guys like Fernando Tatis, who, well, I bring it up, unfortunately got hurt the other night. Hopefully he can have a speedy recovery and come back, because the dude's an absolute stud. Love him, one of my favorite players. But one of the things he's brought to the league ever since he's been in is that flair, that swag, with that bat flip and the swinging on 3-0 and hitting that pitch out, and he had to come out and apologize. It's stuff like that that just annoys me with baseball, because we're finally taking steps to modernize it, I guess, to bring some extra excitement, to make it fun. And we got to come here and strike that down. And I get it, some people aren't always going to love that stuff, but it's just part of what it is, the trash talk, the rivalry, the extra flair, whatever you want to call it. Like, that stuff has to be there. That's where storylines come in. That's what makes things more exciting. That's what makes people want to watch the games, because it's just, if it's going to be another boring, monotonous game of throw ball, hit ball, field ball, there's just not as much added excitement there. It's like the old school Yankees-Red Sox rivalries. Not only were both teams really good, but they had this extra hate for each other that was there, that made it exciting, that when those two teams played, even if you didn't care at all about either of those teams and weren't a fan, you wanted to tune in, because they had a couple of the best teams there for a little while in the early mid-2000s. And they also had this added rivalry. They hated each other. They're in the same division. So, the more and more they play each other, the more it's going to come down possibly at the end for postseason spots and stuff like that. This stuff's got to be in baseball. And we got to stop striking this stuff down. I mean, baseball just is shooting itself in the foot and not letting itself grow. This is the stuff like Castellanos does is the stuff you want to hit on. Like, that's the stuff you want to emphasize the most. That's the stuff you want to put on social media to get some extra clicks, get some extra viewership, make some people who might not even be baseball fans say, man, that's kind of cool. That happens in baseball. I might have to check that out. Might have to tune into these two teams playing and see how this goes from here. That's how that stuff happens. You got to have storylines and find ways to get people interested, because if you play 162 games and you make them all mundane and monotonous, then nobody really cares. Even as someone like me that's a baseball fan, like, if there's no exciting storylines, what am I going to be there for? Like, it's nice this year that, not only are the Tigers competitive, but having someone like Akil Baddoo is making me want to tune into the games. Because I'm like, man, what is this kid going to do next? He's so exciting. He's got this flair. He's got this crazy backstory that you wouldn't think he'd be able to come back from, with never playing beyond A-ball. I don't even know if I mentioned it, but he had a season-ending injury in one of his years in A-ball too, that he was out for almost an entire year for. I think it was all of last year. He never played any bit of baseball at all, or maybe it was the year before. But it's that kind of stuff that that has that added incentive to want to be a part of the game and tune in and see what's going on. That's what adds that stuff, like, and we can't just keep waiting around for when the postseason and the World Series and stuff finally comes around to where there's that added flair for people to finally tune in. You got a long 162 game season. You got to have other ways to incentivize people to want to watch the games and tune in and see what's going on. And this is the kind of stuff that's going to do that. And you don't have to like what Nick Castellanos did. I know, as somebody who pitched, back in school and stuff, a hitter getting in my face or something after that, might not be the most appealing thing, but I guarantee you it struck up some rivalry, got some adrenaline going out of all the players. It pumped them up. It made it not just another game. And that's the kind of stuff you want. I like it. I really do. I want more of this stuff. And I don't want to get in dirty, because we've had stuff in the past. We've had we don't need stupid dirty slides at second base or home plate collisions or a Jose Bautista versus Rougned Odor fight, where they're throwing, I don't know. I guess some people, I don't know. I guess it was kind of exciting. So maybe we could have more of that, but we don't need that kind of stuff, but we definitely need to let players be players, let that competitive side come out, let those moments happen to where they strike up that extra adrenaline and extra spice and rivalry into the games. We got to let more of that stuff happen, because it just makes everything more exciting. Even if you're a baseball old head and you just like the normal day-to-day mundane games, that's great. There's no problem with that, but baseball is not going to grow without these sort of things happening. People talk about changing all these rules in baseball and pace of play and all that stuff. And sure, yeah, there's probably some some ways to go and some improvement there to be made upon where baseball was previously. But I mean, in my opinion, these moments could do it just as much justice if you just let the players go out there and play and do their thing and have their personalities and stuff. Like baseball just doesn't have enough of those personalities. The best player in the game right now is probably Mike Trout. I don't think that's too arguable, but the face of baseball right now is probably Fernando Tatis Jr. It's not because he's necessarily better than Mike Trout. Could argue it right now, but it'd be tough to. I mean, Trout's played for the last 10 years. I mean, Tatis, I don't even think really has exactly a full season under his belt, but people love what Tatis brings and that swag and that flair and the bat flips and all that stuff. That's what people like. You know, Trout's a phenomenal player, but he doesn't have that added personality that brings that face to baseball. You know, it's kind of the same thing with Steph Curry in a way. I mean, Steph did more than just, you know, have a personality and all that stuff. I mean, Steph changed the way the game is played, the rate at which 3-pointers were shot and all that stuff. I mean, he really changed the way the whole game is played, but he had that he had that flair, you know? Get a guy shooting threes from places on the court that nobody really shoots them before, then wow, that's crazy. You got, you know, guys not only hitting crazy long home runs, but they got these added bat flips and they're getting the dugout pumped up and stuff. It's that added stuff that needs to be there. And that's how you're going to modernize baseball and get it out there more and popularize it more, in my opinion. It's not the end all be all, but it's definitely something that would help. Because I think for the most part, when you talk to people that aren't really baseball fans, if they had one thing they liked about baseball, the brawls. You know, like that's what most people point to, and it's because there's flair, there's rivalry, there's excitement, and there's ways to put that in take that and implement it into baseball without it having to be nasty or over the line. So all this coming from a guy standing, you know, over a pitcher just sparked this whole thing. But I don't get the suspension. We gotta let these kids play, man. I get tired of seeing this stuff with baseball. Go figure. Rob Manfred, the guy has been horrible for Major League Baseball. Hopefully his time will be over soon, but not holding my breath. Dude just doesn't get it. Flat out. Need a new face. Need a new face in there. But we'll shift away from the MLB. It's glad to see it back. We'll shift away from that and some of the sports stuff. We'll get into a couple things in the gaming world a little bit. Things have been pretty dry for games as of recently. I personally haven't had too much that I have really been enticed to play or enjoyed playing. Really, it's around this time every year. Things are kind of dry. I mean, Q4 toward the end of the year during the holiday season is when most games will release. I'm looking forward to MLB The Show coming out, though. We got, what do we got? 8 days, I think, if you pre-ordered, which I did. So we got 8 days till that. That's really all I've got looking forward to. Other than that, we got a long wait for some games. At least that I know of and I'm looking forward to going forward. But so hopefully MLB The Show can be some fun. But one game that I had heard about just a little bit and really forgot about until it kind of popped up again this weekend. It's such a weird game. Because I just feel like you would look at it and really not think that it would be that great or that fun. And maybe as time goes on, when it comes out later, the full build of the game and stuff, when it comes out and gets in the general public, maybe it really won't catch. But I kind of hope it does. game called Knockout City. This is a game built off of dodgeball. That's what it is. Knockout City is video game dodgeball, which to some people might actually sound pretty cool, and it is. But the reason I was kind of skeptical of this game is I felt like it wouldn't really have any longevity, especially if it was very simple to the point of, well, you throw, you catch, maybe you dodge, and that's about it. If that's really all it boiled down to, I really wouldn't expect much from this game. But I decided to hop in. They had their open beta this past weekend, and I decided to try it out. Like I said, not a lot of interesting stuff going on in the gaming world right now. So I decided to hop in and give it a shot. And the game mode that they had live when I played was 3v3, playing to 10 knockouts. So the way this game works is, you play it like dodgeball. They have multiple different maps. Dodgeball spawn on the map. They have a cool aspect with it too, to where there's each map has what they call a special ball or something. It's probably got a cooler name than that. But they have different types of balls. So one of them is a bomb ball. You throw it, it explodes. Pretty self-explanatory. They've got a sniper ball that's very direct, a very quick one, so it's harder to catch. It comes at you a little bit faster. They've got a cage ball. You throw it at somebody, they get locked up in the cage. So you can kind of, take two players out with the price of one, because then you throw an enemy player at an enemy player, essentially. So, game's got a lot of cool aspects, man. And I was really pleasantly surprised with how fun it was. I really thought it would be one of those games that I play a couple games and I've seen it all and that's it. But I think this game might have a place. Because it's really unique, and I think it's expanded upon really well to the point of, I almost relate it to Rocket League in a way, because Rocket League is such a simple concept, right? It's it's race car soccer is what it is. You drive cars around, or fly cars around too, and you hit a ball into a goal and you score points. It's a very simple concept. And overall, jumping into it, it's really doesn't have that, really doesn't have that big of an initial skill gap. Whereas if you get somebody to try and play Call of Duty and they've never really played a game before, it might be a little difficult. I feel like Rocket League's at least a little bit easier to step in for the first time and play, whether you're like a big gamer or not. And I kind of feel that way with this game. I feel like it's very similar in that sense. But the thing with Rocket League, and I think Knockout City has as well, is the true skill gap is very high. All the little extra techniques, especially, if you're playing in a 3-on-3 format, working together with your teammates, all that stuff. I feel like the competitive level of it could be so high. With all the different teamwork and all that stuff. So which is a great thing for a game to have, because it's going to allow players to just want to hop in and play casually, not take things too serious. It's going to allow them to come in and do their thing. It's not going to be something too complicated to where, if you're not that big of a gamer, or you're hopping into the game for the first time, to where it's going to be super difficult. But playing it competitively will have that extra skill gap, or at least from what I've seen, I think it will. And I feel like it might have a place. So anyway, with this game, and the game mode I was playing was 3-on-3, first to 10 knockouts. Essentially, each so you playing as your character can get hit twice by a ball before you're knocked out. And of course, you can take the balls and you can throw them. You can fake throw them, which is a really good technique for faking people out, because when you go to catch the ball, you have to time it. You can't just hold a button and then whenever the ball comes at you, it'll just automatically catch it. Like, you have to time it. You have to hit that window just right to be able to catch the ball. So there's that added skill gap in there. And then when you fake it, you could potentially throw them off, because otherwise, if you could just throw and if there's no fake throw, wouldn't be as skillful. I mean, there's of course dodging and other sort of moves that you can make as well. You can actually take your character and roll yourself into a ball and have your teammate throw you up and have like an aerial attack, which is nuts. That's some of that part I was talking about with that added teamwork. Of course, being able to pass the ball to other teammates and kind of have that extra avenue of strategy. It's wild. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised with how much fun I was having with the game and how much I saw out of it as far as potential. They already teased, if you went through the menus, there was already a thing there for league play, so they are going to have casual and ranked as well, which is huge. So hopefully no like skill-based matchmaking or anything with it. Might have a little bit, but hopefully nothing too crazy. They've already got it set up with different cosmetics, so you can customize your character's outfit, shoes, their special intro cutscene that they have. So much different stuff. They already had all that stuff there and set to go in the beta, which is pretty crazy. I mean, the game does come out in like a month and a half, so maybe you consider it more of a trial than a true beta, but regardless, the game is set up with all the right tools. And I think that was what was most surprising. Like I said, I didn't really know what to expect going into the game, but it was actually super, super good. And I'm hoping it's not one of those games that just gets glossed over and people play it a few times when it comes out and it never really gets its spotlight. Because I really think it could be something super, super cool. And something that potentially has that competitive scene. Maybe becomes a big esport. Rocket League had the same thing. I hope it gets its shine because I do think it does deserve it. Anyway, for those of you interested, the game, like I said, is called Knockout City. I believe it's coming out at the end of, I want to say May 21st, but that might be a date for something else that I'm getting mixed up. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But 3-on-3 dodgeball, a lot of fun. There's definitely some gameplay out there already on YouTube and stuff if you want to take a further look. I definitely recommend at least taking a look at it because it's cool. And I'm hoping it gets its spotlight. I'm going to be disappointed if it doesn't get the recognition that I think it deserves. I don't know. Maybe I'll even play it when it comes out and be like, just doesn't have that longevity factor. But we'll see. Yeah, we got time. We'll do one last topic here in the scene of gaming things. This is kind of one I threw on based on some stuff that I was seeing kind of come up on Twitter and in some YouTube stuff, a little bit of drama going down. If you've been around the YouTube scene long enough, you may know somebody by the name of 8Thoughts. The dude has been around for a very long time, and he's been a very, we'll call it controversial member in the gaming scene for a very long time, primarily with Call of Duty. And he popped back up over the last few days or so. And I kind of forgot about him, to be completely honest with you. He had a lot of talk about him. I think it was a few years ago now or something like that. But I really kind of forgot that he had existed and was a little surprised to see he was still around. A lot of what 8Thoughts does is, in my opinion, horrible. A lot of his content centers around basically hating on anything he can. He describes it as satirical. I say BS and think it's just, some old dude with some mental issues lashing out in YouTube videos, but, teach their own. The dude's been around for a long time, and he has dedicated his entire channel to essentially tearing down the game of Call of Duty, tearing down other creators for this or that has no real place here or there. It's really what this whole dude's mojo has been. And he really hides behind this whole, it being satirical and being for laughs and being for jokes and stuff. But it gets to a certain point to where it's just not that anymore. And he came up again in a lot of the discussion and stuff on Twitter and some YouTube stuff as well, when he tried to go after Nickmercs. For those of you that don't know, Nickmercs is probably the most popular Warzone streamer out there. I'm trying to think of who would be bigger, at least as far as average viewers goes on Twitch. I think he's definitely damn near the top. He might be number one, at least as far as popularity goes. Obviously very good, and everybody, a lot of people love Nick for the comedy and stuff that he brings. Good dude, crazy dude. But he's funny. EightThoughts, for whatever reason, don't know how we saw this panning out, but tried to take a stab at Nickmercs, try and roast some of his content and the stuff that Nick does. I think part of the discussion was some of Nick's thumbnails, which they get a lot of talk because not only are a lot of them the same, but because of the clickbait culture on YouTube, there's a lot of people with Kevin from Home Alone faces of just the overly shocked thing, like something crazy happens every single game. But EightThoughts came after it, saying it looked like, every single thumbnail that Nick is in looks like he's taking a dick in the mouth and all this stuff. And essentially, Nick had enough and fired back. Sounds like ended up getting a strike put on his channel, which, for those of you that don't know, YouTube has a policy with their strikes. You get 3 strikes for violating guidelines in all different ways. You can get copyright, or things for harassment or inappropriate content or whatnot. You get them for a multitude of things, and, like baseball, 3 strikes, you're out, channel's gone, deleted, wiped, never to be seen again or be used again. And EightThoughts is up to now 2 strikes on his channel, which obviously one of the most recent one coming from Nickmercs. And there was this, for some reason, there was this battle between the two communities, between EightThoughts community and, I would say Nickmercs community, but it was essentially EightThoughts community versus everybody else. On, I guess, who is in the right in this situation. And when you look at it at face value, if you look at it as just somebody who's making fun of thumbnails versus somebody who, quote unquote, got butthurt about it and forced a strike on somebody's channel, sure, you may have a bit of an argument there. But in my opinion, there's no argument here, simply based on the track record of EightThoughts. The dude is an absolute joke of not only a creator, but a human being. The dude has been a monstrosity. The fact he's one of those people that you take a look at and you go, man, this dude is allowed to breathe the same air as me. I mean, this dude has done horrible stuff. Not just in what he's done with his content and tearing down creators, what he's done specifically to another guy named Drifter, another Call of Duty creator. Him and EightThoughts have a long history, and it goes a lot deeper than I think most people realized. Back a few years ago, EightThoughts was hammering Drifter and just roasting him and all this stuff because Drifter had this problem with low testosterone that he was struggling with and had to go in and take different kinds of medicine for and all this stuff. Something he was struggling pretty bad with, and EightThoughts just sent the dude so much hate with him and his community and all of his content, and just an absolute dickbag. And it's essentially that's where people more or less thought that it was left off, or at least to my understanding, that was the end of it. Come to find out, it sounds like 8Thoughts was taking part in swatting Drifter at one point. Ended up, whether it was or whether it was 8Thoughts or somebody he knew, ended up sending a tow truck to Drifter's house to get try and get one of his cars towed. Ended up sending a male. Might have this wrong. Forgive me if I got this wrong. I'm totally spitballing here off of what I believe I heard. Ended up sending a male hooker to the dude's house, who came to the door and made fun of him for his low testosterone. It's just, the dude has done ridiculous stuff. The fact he hasn't been wiped off the face of the internet is mind-boggling to me. Just for the hateful spirit alone, but for some of those acts is just is utterly ridiculous. I could go on and on. The dude has just been an absolute negative thorn in the side of anything good in content and on YouTube. I mean, if you've shared success in any way or another across Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, whatever it may be, 8Thoughts has probably roasted you in some way or another. And I don't get it. Again, says it's all satirical and all for jokes and all to make people laugh and whatever, but it gets to a certain point and you go, dude, you got nothing better? That's all you got? Really? You know, and the dude has made a quote unquote career out of it, I guess. It's become his full-time thing for a number of years now. And I don't know about you, but, even though it's through the content space and yeah, he doesn't have to work a normal job and stuff, man, I don't care. That ain't how I would want things to go down. I would not want to be known as the dickbag that makes money off of hating on other people and causing them a lot of mental stress and agony. Yeah, not my way of doing things. Not by any route. I don't really have much more to say on it other than that. It was just a topic that came across my timeline. And like I said, I was not only shocked to see that 8Thoughts was still around and still doing his thing, but it really hasn't stopped. And some of the things that I had heard about in prior years that he had done ended up being a lot worse. Dude needs to be wiped. He's come out and said how much of BS it is that he's getting strikes for his content and whatnot. The dude deserves an insane amount of strikes. The fact that he hasn't had his channel wiped yet. I mean, the dude has had his Twitter. What is he on? His 35th Twitter account? The dude has had to make a ridiculous number of Twitter accounts because they've been banned for stuff he said and content he shared and whatnot. That should be a sign enough. Dude just shouldn't be able to do this sort of thing anymore. And the fact he's still able to walk the face of the content world is a shame. Hopefully for not too much longer. Cause like I said, I can't believe he's been able to go this long. And props to Nickmercs, who's not much of a pushover, to say the least. Nick's a pretty, I don't know if I want to say hot-headed dude, because I feel like that paints it in a bad light, but the dude definitely doesn't take crap from anybody. So props to him for taking the fight back and doing his thing. Love it. Glad to see he won the battle there, I guess, and guess we'll keep our eyes out for more things coming in that light. But so we're going to start to wrap things up for the pod. Good amount of topics for today. Some good talk. Glad to see sports are still going in full swing. Really haven't had any setbacks in that department. Baseball's back. Love to see it. Hopefully some more exciting stuff in the video game world comes around, man. I really haven't had anything fun or exciting to play in a while. So, but we got MLB The Show coming out next week. Hopefully we can have some fun with that and look out for more things in the future. But anyway, we'll wrap this thing up here For those of you on the listening platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher, as always, make sure to follow and stay tuned for new episodes coming every single Thursday of Shootin' the Schmidt. If you're on Apple, drop those 5-star reviews. We'd love to read them out on the pod. If you're on the YouTube version, make sure to smack the Schmidt like button down below. Comment on anything you heard today in today's podcast. Appreciate you guys all tuning in for another episode. We'll be back next week with episode number 15? 15? Heck yeah. We'll be back next week. Once again, appreciate you guys for all tuning in to the pod. We'll see you next week. Peace out.